lost.
My bad.
I got this.
What?
Give me some shade.
Where a man named Nicky is sitting comfortably in the VIP stands with his girlfriend, Jess. The game is going on, but Nicky's attention isn't on the field, it's on the crowd. He spots a beautiful woman standing up and leaving her seat. And right then, a mischievous idea pops into his head. He makes a small bet with Jess, saying, let's see how many people turn to look at her. A man sitting nearby, Liyuan, joins in on the fun, and Nicky agrees. They all bet $10, and the counting begins. When the woman finally walks out, the final number comes to 7. 7 people turned to look at her. Jess had guessed the closest number, so she wins the bet. Liyuan laughs, pays up without hesitation, and suggests another round. This time, the bet is about who will commit the next foul. Jess steps out, saying she doesn't know anything about the game, but Nicky jumps in and wagers $1,000. As soon as the whistle blows, the referee signals a foul, and Nicky's prediction is right. He wins and pockets the cash. Liyuan, though he lost, gets even more excited and says, let's raise the stakes, $5,000 this time. The question now is, will the next play be a pass or a run? Nicky hesitates for a moment, but finally agrees. Liyuan bets on a run, while Nicky says it'll be a pass. The whistle blows, and the player starts running with the ball. Nicky loses $5,000. Trying to stay calm, Nicky says, no problem, I'm done now, and tells Jess they should go for coffee. But Liyuan insists, teasing him. Come on, you're sitting in the VIP lounge. You've got money. What's $5,000? Eventually, Nicky agrees to play again, this time for $10,000. The question, will the next pass be successful? Nicky says yes, but the other team intercepts it midway, and now he's down $15,000. Looking stressed, he pays up and decides to go big. $50,000 this time. Jess is shocked, but Nicky looks angry and determined. Luck isn't on his side, and he loses again. Jess pleads with him to stop, but his ego and frustration take over. Without thinking, he puts $100,000 on the line. Liyuan laughs and asks if he even has that kind of money, so Nicky slams a bundle of cash on the table. Now, the tension is sky high. Nicky bets that the next pass will be intercepted, but once again, it's completed successfully. Nicky has now lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's devastated, and Jess is in disbelief. Still, the game has reached a dangerous level. Nicky says, I've got 1 million left. Let's go all in. One last game. This time, they'll decide it with playing cards. Liyuan, thrilled from his streak of wins, sees Nicky like an ATM. Liyuan flips his card, a 5. Nicky only needs a card higher than 5 to win. Confidently, he turns his card over, but it's a 3. Jess gasps and nearly falls off her chair. Nicky started this game planning to bet just $4,000, but now he's lost over $1 million. Humiliated and heartbroken, he quietly takes Jess's hand to leave. But Liyuan can't resist mocking him, saying, that's what happens when you play with the master. Nicky stops, looks at him, and places one last bet, $2 million. This time, the challenge is different. Liyuan can pick any random player from the field through binoculars, and if Nicky guesses that player's jersey number correctly, he wins. Liyuan, now intrigued but confused. Liyuan laughed and said, now this is some next-level mind game. He thought Nicky was digging his own grave, and even suspected that maybe Nicky was cheating somehow. To clear his doubts, Nicky calmly said, alright, I won't guess this time. Jess glared at him, completely confused about what was going on. How could I possibly guess the right jersey number out of so many players, she said, trying to walk away. But Liyuan's security guard stopped her, and for a moment, things got tense. Jess took a deep breath and calmed herself. Nicky then told her softly, just look around the field and say the number that feels right to you. Liyuan picked a random player through his binoculars, and then Jess took the binoculars and scanned the entire field. All she could see were jersey numbers everywhere. How could she possibly guess? Suddenly, her eyes stopped at a familiar face, Farhad, wearing jersey number 55. She remembered what Nicky said. Choose the number that feels like yours. That's when she realized everything. This was all part of Nicky's plan. She said, number 55, and it was exactly right. Liyuan was shocked, completely speechless. Jess herself couldn't believe how Nicky had known which player Liyuan would pick. But that didn't matter anymore. They had won. They had just made a profit of $1 million and got all their lost money back. Carrying 2 bags full of cash, Nicky and Jess walked out of the stadium. In the car, Nicky explained everything. He told Jess that this was their plan all along. They'd been tracking Liyuan for weeks. Liyuan was well known in high society for his gambling addiction. No matter what the bet was, he could never resist. Nicky's team had set up the entire trap. From the moment Liyuan left his hotel, his subconscious mind was being programmed to focus on one number, 55. The security guard's badge had 55 printed on it. The road signs on the way to the stadium showed the same number, and even the song playing in his car repeated 55 over 100 times. Everywhere he looked or listened, the number 55 followed him. On top of that, Nicky had shown him a photo of Farhad earlier, planting a visual memory. So when Liyuan looked through the binoculars, his mind naturally went straight to number 55. Jess had no idea about any of this, and that was the key. Her reactions were 100% real, which made their con look completely genuine. Hearing all this, Jess was amazed by Nicky's genius. A few days earlier, things had started differently. Nicky was lying on a bed with a gun pointed at his head. Jess sat nearby. They had met only a few days ago. It was clear that Nicky had been trapped, but his face showed no fear. Calmly, he said, "I don't have a dime. If you're gonna shoot, then shoot." The man with the gun studied him for a second and realized this guy was no ordinary man. He was a player, a pro, and he was right. Nicky was a master con artist, an expert in the art of the steal. Jess had lured him into this situation, but Nicky saw something in her, a natural talent. Once the gunman left, Nicky told Jess, "You've got a gift. If you learn to use it, you can live off it forever." He smiled and added, "It runs in my blood. My father, his father, all of them were hustlers. It's a family business." Jess pulled out some money and said, "Teach me." Nicky didn't waste a second. On their way out, he slipped Jess's ring off her finger without her noticing. Before she could even realize, her watch was gone too. When she opened her purse, she found her wallet missing. Nicky had taken that too. Smiling, he said, "It's all about timing, precision, and a little style." That day, Nicky said goodbye and disappeared. A few months later, Jess found him again in New Orleans, where Nicky was putting together a new crew. Their reunion was actually a test. Nicky wanted to see if Jess had what it takes to join his team. When she agreed, Nicky sent her out for her first real job at a street fair. Holding a map, Jess started asking people for directions, while her partner quietly stole a tourist's camera lens. Another teammate bumped into a man, and Jess smoothly lifted his wallet. She was starting to get confident in her technique. Using a pair of chopsticks, she even picked a wallet out of a woman's purse, perfectly clean, no suspicion at all. Watching from a rooftop, Nicky smiled and said to his crew, "Leave her alone now. It's time for her to fly solo." Jess started stealing expensive items one after another, and with every smooth theft, Nicky's respect for her kept growing. Soon, Nicky sent her on a bigger assignment, this time a high-tech con. Using special contact lenses, they could see other players' cards during poker games and easily outsmart their opponents. They also ran a credit card scam, stealing cards, passing them to a teammate who copied the data with a hidden device, and then slipping the card back into the owner's pocket before anyone noticed. Used them to buy luxury items and later sold the data on the black market. One day, Jess found a beautiful necklace and tried it on, but Nicky sternly told her to take it off immediately. He explained that everything they stole had to be sold, nothing was personal. Jess had never seen theft on such a massive scale before. Standing in the middle of piles of stolen goods gave her a strange thrill. The next day, Jess and Farhad were in a rich neighborhood, pretending to be strangers in need of help. Farhad suddenly collapsed, and Jess started shouting for help, crying, "Please, somebody help us!" It was all a distraction. While people gathered around, the rest of the team quietly stole jewelry, wallet, and valuables from nearby bystanders, and then everyone escaped together in an ambulance. The plan was executed so perfectly that no one even realized they'd been robbed. That night, the crew celebrated. Nicky praised everyone. They had made $1.2 million in just 1 week. The next day, the team was disbanding. All the documents were destroyed, and everyone was told that their money would be transferred into their bank account within days. But the old members knew Nicky still had one last game left. They handed him $1.2 million in cash and warned Jess not to let him gamble it away. The next morning, Nicky took Jess to the VIP lounge of a stadium. He put on a show for her, demonstrating how easily he could turn a few minutes into millions. By now, Jess had started falling for him. She felt special, like she was his girlfriend. Why else would he share all this with her? But the truth was, Nicky had only brought her into his crew for the job. When everything was over, Nicky handed her $80,000 and said goodbye. Jess looked at him, tears in her eyes. Her heart was broken. She had truly fallen for him, but now she realized that for Nicky, emotions meant nothing. She also felt cheated. $80,000 100,000 was nothing compared to the million he had just made. That was the day Jess finally saw Nicky's real face. Almost 3 years later, a race car pulls into a service station, and we see Nicky again. He looks exhausted, worn out, and clearly running low on money. During lunch, he meets Garriga, the owner of a racing team. Garriga's research team had developed a new algorithm called EXR, designed to give their cars an edge in competition. But Garriga wanted to make it even better, so he hired Nicky for the job. The plan was simple. Nicky would pretend to be Garriga's chief engineer. Then they'd stage a public fight between them, making it look like Nicky had left the team in anger. That would lure rival teams in, and Nicky would then sell them a fake version of EXR, while Garriga's team used the real one, guaranteeing victory. According to the deal, Nicky would earn 1 million euros plus whatever he made selling the fake system. Nicky laughed at the plan. This was child's play for him, but Garriga's bodyguard didn't trust him. Pointing a gun at Nicky, he warned, "If anything goes wrong, I'll put a bullet right in your chest." That evening, dressed in a tuxedo, Nicky arrived at a party where he and Garriga were supposed to fake their argument in front of the crowd. But the plan fell apart the moment Jess appeared, walking down the stairs in a stunning red dress, straight into Garriga's arms. Nicky froze. He hadn't seen her in 3 years, and now she was with the man who had hired him. Jess walked up to Nicky calmly and said, "I'm not a con artist anymore. Whatever happened 3 years ago doesn't matter now." She also warned him that Garriga didn't know about their past and said it would be better for both of them if things stayed that way. Hearing all this, Nicky's blood started to boil. He grabbed a glass of vodka and emptied it in one go. Earlier, he only had to pretend to argue with Garriga, but now he was genuinely angry. He exploded in front of everyone, shouting and fighting with Garriga for real. The rival racing team loved the drama, and soon security threw Nicky out of the party, but not before he had what he needed, the rival team business card. The next morning, Nicky met the owner of the McLaren racing team. He got straight to the point. 3 million euros, that's my price for the EXR system. The owner didn't even blink. Money was no problem for him. He tested the system right away, and when he saw the results, his face lit up. Nicky promised to deliver the full software within 48 hours. Meanwhile, Jess ran into Farhad on the street. He had been sent by Nicky. Farhad told her that 3 years ago, Nicky had no choice but to leave. He said Nicky still loved her. Then he handed her a small box. Inside was the same necklace Jess had once fallen in love with. Maybe it was real, maybe fake, but that didn't matter. Seeing it melted Jess's heart. She said she couldn't trust Nicky, but her eyes told a different story. She still had feelings for him. Soon, the deal day arrived. Nicky handed over the fake software to the McLaren team, and a huge man placed a briefcase of 3 million euros in his hands. But Nicky was never the kind of man to settle for small risks. Secretly, he sold a copy of that same software to every racing team. Every handshake brought in millions, and by the time the race began, no one realized that everyone had bought the same system. That night, instead of running away, Nicky texted Jess, "If you can make it in time, we can leave together." He waited, but she didn't come. Just when he was about to leave, Jess showed up. But before they could escape, the same huge man who had given Nicky the 3 million appeared. He wasn't from McLaren, he was Garriga's man. He had found out everything, that Nicky sold the real EXR system instead of a fake one. Tied up in front of Garriga, all the stolen cash lay on the floor. Garriga was furious. He had spent 40 million euros developing the program, and now everything was ruined. He couldn't understand how Nicky managed to steal the real software. When Nicky refused to talk, Garriga pressed Jess's nose shut, suffocating her. Watching her struggle for breath, Nicky broke down and confessed. He revealed that he had rekindled Jess's old love, only to make her wear a necklace with a hidden microchip inside. When Garriga opened the software, that chip automatically stole his password and data. Hearing this, Jess was shattered. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but Garriga and his men just laughed. They liked the story, but didn't believe it. Garriga said coldly, "Jess was never my girlfriend. I knew she was only after my watch collection." Jess admitted it. She only wanted to steal his expensive watches. Nicky was stunned. He realized Jess had pretended to love Garriga just to make him jealous. Now, both of them were caught. Garriga didn't waste any time. He turned to his enforcer, Bucky, and said, "Ask him how he stole it." As soon as Nicky started to speak, Bucky pulled the trigger. The bullet hit Nicky straight in the chest. Garriga's face turned pale. He panicked. "Money can be earned again," he muttered. "But if we get caught for murder, it's over." He fired Bucky on the spot and fled the warehouse. Jess was crying uncontrollably, but Bucky told her to calm down. He wasn't Garriga's man at all. He was Nicky's man. In fact, he was Nicky's real father. He had deliberately shot Nicky off center, missing the heart. He sealed the wound with tape, drew out the blood with a syringe, and stabilized the air pressure in his chest. Moments later, Nicky opened his eyes, alive. It was a crazy move, but it worked. Behind Behind them lay piles of stolen cash, and the three of them escaped together. Nicky was an orphan, raised and trained by this very man, his mentor and father figure. He was the one who taught Nicky every trick in the book, with one rule: never get emotional. But now, Nicky had truly fallen in love with Jess. His father dropped them off by the roadside and drove away with all the money. Nicky was left with nothing. As they headed toward the hospital, Nicky noticed something: Garriga's 200,000 euro watch on Jess's wrist. They looked at each other and smiled. With their clever minds and quick hands, they knew one thing for sure: they'd never go hungry anywhere in the world